We are blazing new trails on this channel. I'm going to show you some content that I've never had before. A few years ago, we became a federally licensed firearms dealer, so we have our FFL, and we've been dealing guns now for a number of years, in addition to our tools. But I've never really put any firearms content on this channel because I know YouTube is sensitive about that kind of thing, and it can affect the monetization of a channel. One of my goals for this channel was to monetize it, so now that I'm there, I don't want to do anything to jeopardize it. So what I want to do is go over a thorough cleaning of a Kimber, let me make sure I get the model right, a Pro TLE-RL2. A customer came to me a couple of weeks ago and he asked me if I could clean the gun for him because it's been sitting in a leather holster in his safe for a long time. I don't think he's ever shot it, and it had some buildup, some surface rust, and some grit and debris on it. So I welcome the opportunity to take it in because I want to start doing more diverse channel content. As far as I know, YouTube won't let me monetize this video if I show the disassembly and reassembly of the gun. So I'm just going to show you the cleaning portion of the gun, and I'll handle the disassembly and reassembly on a new channel I'm starting called Coyle Firearms. This will be the first video on that channel, so it's going to have the complete breakdown, cleaning, and reassembly of the gun. For this tool channel, I'm just going to show you the cleaning portion of it because I don't want to affect the monetization. It took me a while to get through this gun because there were some tricks at the end there in reassembly that I'll talk about on the other channel, so head over there to check out the video in its entirety. On this channel, however, just enjoy the cleaning portion. I had done a bunch of reading and what research I could on how to properly clean a blued finish. The way I know to remove rust and things like that relies on using acids or materials that remove oxidation, like Evapor Rust or any rust removing or any commercial rust removing product. Vinegar also works very well, but it also removes oxidation. The problem with that is on a blued gun, this bluing is an oxidized surface. So anything that's going to remove the rust will also remove the bluing. So we have to be very careful about what we do here so we don't damage the gun or the finish. So as I was reading what gunsmiths use, they very simply use 4-aught or 0000 steel wool and oil. One gunsmith uses motor oil. Another gunsmith I saw uses Hoppy's number 9 because it also has a lubricant to it. But I really want to avoid the use of any kind of solvents, and Hoppy's has a solvent in it. So while he says it's good, I'm going to try it first with just oil and some steel wool and see what happens. I think the hammer is going to pose a bit of a conundrum for us because we're going to have to get in there with something really small. We'll see if we can get steel wool in all those corners and all those angles and curves in there. I don't know if we're going to be able to. So we might have to resort to something gentle like a Q-tip with maybe some jeweler's rouge or something. I don't know yet. We're gonna experiment and find out. But let's see first of all what we can do with some oil and some steel wool on the biggest parts here. And it's going to be hard to see on camera here, but there was the buildup that exists around the corners here. You can see it is coming up. And we're not throwing a bunch of elbow grease at this. We're just being gentle and taking it easy. Because there's also some checkering here on the grip that we're going to have to get into. You can see some rust buildup in there.
Ba ba da ba ba ba.
I'm particularly interested in this part right here where there seems to be a buildup right along where the edge of the grip met the frame here. And I'm trying to see if that's coming off, but it looks like, I don't know if that's pitting or some permanent discoloration. We'll keep working on it a little bit to see. Where we go with that. Dry it off here and see where we stand. You can see that line right there, that brownish line that's right next to the edge of the grip or the frame. I don't know if I mean, it feels like it does feel raised up a little bit, so I'm thinking that it is in fact something that can be taken off. I might have to use a plastic scraper or something to see if that'll come off. So I have a little tool set that has little torque screwdrivers and little tweezers and tiny little pliers and this plastic tool with a poker thing on one end and a blade on the other. Very handy tool. It's probably pretty decent for gunsmithing applications, but I'm going to take this little scraper to this little buildup right here and see if we can scrape it off. And it's coming off. It just seems like it's a little gummy. So maybe a mild solvent would be the thing for that. I'm not a fan of scraping against a finish like this. So let's try some hoppies on that and see. And if I learned one lesson, it's this: when you're done dipping something in your hoppies number 9, cover it back up and put it aside. I spilled an entire pint of that once. It was no fun. So very gently on this stuff and see if that yields us anything. That did it. That is, whatever was there is now completely gone. The buildup has been taken down. Try to get that in the light so you can see it. It was right there. I think you can see maybe there might be a discoloration, maybe some pitting that's left over, but the buildup of whatever is gone now. So we'll do that to the rest of it. That actually looks pretty good. That is pretty clean. That ridge of brown gunk is gone. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of permanent discoloration right around there. But the buildup is gone. Let's see if I can get that checkering and all. That's going to be difficult because that's a very fine checker. I think the tip of this thing the blade of this thing can fit in there. Let's see if we can scrape out the corrosion that built up. Looks like the rust is coming off that okay. What we're going to have to do though is once I'm done going through all that checkering, we're going to take it out to the garage and blow some air at it through the compressor to get everything out of there. Right now it's such a fine checkering, it's so difficult to get anything in there. I can't just wipe it out, so we're going to have to blow it out. But it'll take a few minutes to get through all that checkering. this side of the frame now too. Again, it has that rigid gunk that built up from the grip. And looks like this side fared just like the other one did. The rigid gunk is gone, but it did leave behind some very mild pitting and discoloration right down there. We'll hit the inside of the well next. And the toothbrush will fit in there nicely, so let's use that and gently take out the loose junk first and then go in there with some solvent and then some oil. There was some buildup in the well, that's gone now. The rust is gone. It's a little difficult to see down to the top, but that's looking pretty good. Some leftover gunk up here that I saw and just knocked the rest of that out. It was appearing around here. Stuff comes off okay with the hoppies and a little bit of work with the plastic scraper. Not bad. Now let's get to work on that hammer. I don't know if I can lower the hammer or if it's locked back. And if I lower it, can I get it back up again? I have no idea. Let's see. Okay, so the hammer, yeah, no problem. All right, so the hammer looks like there's some rust buildup underneath it, on the tang, on the top side of the tang, and also like I showed you earlier around here on the back side. And the hammer is stainless, so we don't have to worry about damaging the finish like we do on the bluing. So we can use, we'll see if the usual stuff is working for us. If not, I can try a couple of different things. I got some Jeweler's Rouge. I mean, ideally, if you know, I was a pro at this, I'd want to disassemble this to get at the hammer, but I'm not going to disassemble it any more than it's already been, only because that would be a dumb idea for me. So we will work with what the gun gives us. And the surface rust is certainly gone now, but again, there's some discoloring here that's going to be left behind. But where the rust used to be is now clear, except for that darker discoloration. You can see it there. But we'll keep working it just to see if any more of that comes out. I mean, it would be really cool if I was a gunsmith and machinist to take that out of there, take it to a polisher, and really get it where it was where it was nice and polished. But then again, a lot of folks who have something like this, which has some wear on it and has some patina, a lot of guys love that look because it looks used and it looks like it's got a story to tell. And you don't always want to restore it to like new condition. Sometimes you want to leave that there. So for everybody who thinks that that rust should be removed, there's going to be guys that say, no man, leave that. That looks awesome. I think it's a good place to put this aside for now. I'm going to leave the residual solvent on it and let that do a little extra work. Then we're going to hit the other components and then revisit this to see where we are. I'm really happy with the progress. I think that the rust removal was pretty straightforward, and having a couple of different techniques there paid off. I like using the Hoppies number 9 with the steel wool. That little plastic scraper is worth its weight in gold. Doesn't harm the finish and really gets underneath the junk. And having that little pointy thing on the end is terrific for getting up in corners and edges. Handy tool. So now I've got the slide, and it's actually in pretty good shape. I think, like everything else, there's some wear where you would normally expect to see wear on any used gun. The slide rails are worn, like you'd expect, and inside the slide where the barrel rubs, that's also worn. All completely normal. This looks like it's in really good shape. There is no surface rust that I can see. So we're just gonna drag some Hoppies number 9 over it and see what we get. I mean, you can see it's worth, even when it looks good, it's worth going through it because there's buildup from who knows how long ago. I'm not sure that the owner of this gun ever cleaned it. I think he said he did not. He just kind of keeps it in a leather holster, which is not a great storage option. Because the leather retains moisture. And it can discolor, I think. That's pretty good. And there are some grooves that are way deep down in there. We're going to have to try to get in there with a patch and this guy. Try to get in the way deep part. Well, that did it. You can see how there's one deep groove in there I couldn't get until I used the plastic scraper. I think it's kind of hard to see that there's some pretty deep grooves in there, like this one here and that one there. There's a lot of buildup on the face of the firing pin here, so it always pays to spend extra time getting that out, because that's going to take the primer charge when that goes off. So there's always going to be residue there on any gun. So spend extra time getting that stuff. Alright, looks like the slide is in pretty good shape, so we'll set this aside and get to work on the barrel. There's some fouling in the barrel. There you go. I hope you can see that. And the exterior's got some residue all over it. And especially here where that takes the brunt of the charge when a bullet gets fired, there's going to be a lot of residue, and you normally see this. It doesn't surprise me, and that looks completely normal, and that should come right off with the hoppies. Be careful when you run a bore brush down a bore, because what's going to happen is when it gets to the end, the bristles are going to fling forward and spit out solvent all over the place. So make sure you've got it pointed down into a rag or a cloth or whatever you're working on. So when you do that, and then when you pull it back, it's going to do the same thing here. It's going to spit right back at you. So make sure that you have it pointed in a way that you don't get a face full of solvent. And you do that a few times. Get that good and soaked with solvent. We'll let that sit there for a little while so the barrel can reconsider its life's choices, and then we'll move on to other parts. Something interesting here. It looks like there's some wear marks, or well, I don't know. I don't think it's wear marks. I don't know what would cause it. Maybe the gun's been dropped or something. But there are some marks here in the barrel that don't just wipe away, and I can't really feel. Oh, yeah, I can. Okay, they're scratches, I think, for sure. So maybe the gun was dropped. Maybe, who knows. But we'll see if we can at least get the discoloration out of there and maybe brighten it up a little bit. It's actually doing a pretty good job. That's a lot lighter than it's been. We'll keep working it and see if we can make that look like it went away. In the meantime, we'll also look on some of these other discolorations, like over here. You can see there's some pitting. Let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. And the underside, this is not a polished finish down here. You never see that when it's in the gun. So we'll spend some time with it, but we're not going to go crazy because there are no aesthetics to this piece right here. That's all the top part here. This is the part that's got to look nice. That dark discoloration is going away pretty nicely, so we'll keep spending some time with the steel wool on this and just keep working it. You know, I bet, and I'm not gonna do it, but because I don't know, I'll probably screw it up. If you know, chime on in about, you know, taking, say, a polishing wheel on a Dremel tool to something like this. I presume that would work well. I don't know. if you really wanted to get it nice and polished. But we'll keep working with the steel wheel. I like the results because it's gradual and it's polishing it pretty nicely too. And it's getting rid of those dark marks. Now granted, we're not going to make this like new like I was talking about before, but I think that even that's a vast improvement over what it's been. Because here's the other thing too, this Kimber, I know we're kind of far into the video to be talking about this kind of thing, but this guy, I think when it's new, it goes for about $1,300. So if you wanted to resell it, you know, you want to, and you want to get top dollar for it, you know, the time you spend now is going to be well worth it because you're going to be restoring a lot of the resale value. That's looking pretty good. I'm not going to go too much further than that. I think that the dark marks are gone. It's much lighter than it's been. It's the kind of thing that you can't see unless you're really looking for it. So we're going to leave that as it is. And we'll hit the rest of this and call it good. Now I'm just going to soak a patch in Hoppies and run it through the barrel, and we'll see all the gunk that got removed when we put the solvent in there. Not bad, actually. I was expecting to see it worse. And the key when you send a patch or a brush down a barrel is allow the rifling to take it so that you're not working against the lands and grooves in your barrel. So there'll be a slight twist as you go down there. Not bad at all. And while we're in there, we're going to look to see if there's, you know, any damage or anything that looks like it would be a safety issue. So we're going to check to make sure all the surfaces are smooth. See if there's anything that's been pitted or gouged or anything that would inhibit the travel of a projectile down there. And it looks really good. I don't see any issues there. That is surprisingly clean. I mean, for as long as this gun's been sitting around, it doesn't look like it's been fired very much, because that, I would expect that to be much dirtier, unless the owner, after he shot it, just ran a patch down it just to clean out some fouling. But that's remarkably clean. So clearly he did not let the entire thing go neglected and just let it sit. I think that there was just some neglect of leaving it in a holster, and maybe he cleaned the barrel after he shot it last. Because that doesn't look like anything outside, just aside from this residual dust that would collect in a barrel, having the gun sit around. And that's perfectly clean and dry now, so that looks good. Yeah, looks very good. Now we're going to carefully work with the guide rod here. Again, there's spring tension on there still, as far as I know. And again, if you're familiar with Kimbers, let me know if I'm completely wrong on this one. If it's okay to remove that tool, I suspect it's not, because it did take up the spring tension once before, and nothing we had done would have relieved that. So I'm assuming that there's still tension there, and we should just leave that as it is. So we're just going to hit it with some solvent real quick and be careful not to dislodge my tool. wasn't very dirty to begin with, but it pays to hit it anyway and clean up any fouling or residual dirt that might be on there. And the grips. Inside the grips is some residue that was the stuff that was left on the frame of the gun. So we're going to hit this with some solvent and get all that gunk off there. We're going to make sure you hit the edges too, because that's where the stuff was deposited in the corners between the edges of the grip and where it met the frame. There was some decent buildup in there. Looks like the solvent knocked that out pretty good. And even around the screw holes here, there's where the screw head sets down against this little shoulder on here. There's some buildup in there, so we knocked that out with a pointer on our little plastic tool. And here's the pin for the slide release. We'll just run that over real quick with some solvent. Run over that really quick with some solvent. And we'll hit the screws. There looks like there's some rust inside the head where your Allen bit goes. There's just some grooves in the slide stop. I'm just gonna run through them real quick just in case there's any rust or fouling in there. We're going to wipe down everything thoroughly and oil the moving parts. I thoroughly washed my hands so that there's no oil or solvents or dirt that's going to get back on the gun that we just painstakingly cleaned. So we're going to take some clean patches and run it over the surfaces just to get any leftover oils and solvents off. And you can see that there is still some leftovers. And I'm paying particular attention to any parts that are going to move against each other, like these notches here that accept the slide rails. I want to make sure those are completely cleaned out. And there's always usually some residual fouling and stuff that collects in there. So I want to spend extra time in there to make sure it's as clean as I can possibly get it. Friction's not your friend when it comes to stuff like that, but particularly if there's any kind of grit or anything, and it's just going to wear the finish down. I mean, nobody wants that. And I'm just looking to make sure there's no residual. I want this thing to be so clean. My goal is to do a better job than the customer ever thought I could do. I want to exceed expectations on this. So I want to make sure that when he looks it over, he doesn't see any piece of grit. He doesn't see any solvent collect it anywhere. I want to make sure that this thing is looking awesome. I took the grips over to the kitchen sink, and in order to get all the oils and solvents off, I washed it with soap and water, and it took off anything that was hanging around on it and came out pretty good. Nice and clean. Even in the little shoulder there for the screws, that's nice. The edges especially were stuff collected over the years. Perfectly clean. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change out this old towel that I was doing all the work on because there's oils and solvents on here. So when we reassemble, we want to make sure everything's nice and clean and dry, and it only has the little bit of oil that we're going to add to lubricate the parts. Nice and fresh. Okay. When we lubricate this, we're going to go very light. You don't want to put a lot of oil on a gun, and you only want to oil the parts that are going to move against each other. So the slide rails and the grooves we're going to oil. We're going to put a drop of oil on the pivot to the hammer, and we're going to see where else are moving parts. The spring for the guide rod, we're going to put a couple of drops of oil in there. That's really about it. We're not gonna go nuts. I use Remington gun oil. It's not a plug for these guys. It's just any light oil will do. Gun oils are they're just a light oil, and so they have different formulations. This one has Teflon, you can use air tool oil. You can use any light oil. It's not going to build up. And you don't want to use a whole lot because oils capture and retain dirt. So we're just going to spray a couple of drops in the grooves here for the slide, a couple of drops on the slide rails, and a couple of drops in the hammer pivot, and then a couple of drops here on the guide rod spring. So even though this is a spray can, I go real light, and I just let the oil run down the straw until it gets to the end and kind of just drop it onto my workpiece. I don't go nuts and spray it. So there's one little drop coming down there, just touch it. And again on this side. A couple little drops, just touch it in there. Good. Done. And drop them in the groove here on the slide. And then it's going to run down too, so we'll just let it take up the space in there. And then on the other side, let it run down. Good. And then we'll put a little drop down the firing pin. drop in the hammer pivot. And then this is going to run down into here, so we'll just make sure that's got some on it. But we're not going to spray a whole lot of new stuff in there. A little bit of oil is all you need on this stuff. Like anything else, when you go through a learning curve, it takes longer than you'd like. But we got through everything beautifully here. The gun is in great working condition. I didn't notice anything that would cause me to recommend he not shoot the gun. It looks like it's in perfect working condition. No damage to it at all. And the finish came out completely unharmed, and everything works as it should. So I have every confidence that my customer will be very happy when he gets the gun back next week. Thank you so much for watching. Keep watching because we got a ton of different content coming out. We're going to be doing gun reviews as we have more inventory available to us. Now that the restrictions and the demand from the pandemic seem to be easing, we've got more guns and ammo coming in. So we're going to be doing a lot of reviews on individual firearms, as well as more videos like this when we get the opportunity to break down some guns and clean them. So thank you so much for watching. And remember, use a tool. Don't be one.